I am honored to be here, and I'm honored to know who Jesus is. And I'm honored to speak on his behalf, and my prayer is that what I have to say will challenge you and overcook your grits a little bit. Do y'all know the term overcook your grits? How many do not even know what grits are? You don't even know what grits are. It's like oatmeal, but not really. I want permission to just make you feel a little uncomfortable. Probably won't make you feel that big uncomfortable. When you're uncomfortable, you shift in your seat and you get to see things from a different perspective. So whenever you come to church, you want to be uncomfortable. You do not want to come here and let God just tell you everything you know and make you feel good about yourself because you know a little Bible, a few verses, and can say amen. Can I get amen? So you want God to get in your business. So say, God, get in my business. Very good. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I grew up in New York. I played in the NFL. I have another brother that played in the NFL. I have another brother who was the 8th ranked boxer in the world at one time. And I have 2 sisters. They didn't do anything. And then I was drafted by the Los Angeles Rams, got cut, which means I got fired, and went play for the San Diego Chargers 4 years. My first 2 years I was doing cocaine, chasing women, living wild. Got saved. I was doing cocaine on the team plane. Going to the crack house with my teammate. Got saved, actually on the team plane, walking down the aisle, there was a guy doing a Bible study on our plane. Every NFL team has sold out Christians, chapel, chaplain, Bible study every week, and chapel every night before every game, every team, and Catholic Mass for that matter. It is the most Christianized professional sport on the planet, and football is America, not America's team, forget that. It is the sport of heaven. Let me explain. In football, you have a guy my size, 180 and 190 pounds, get hit by 2 guys, 300 pounds each. That's 600 pounds on roughly 200 pounds, 3-to-1 ratio. That guy will get blasted like a car accident. He will get up, look at those guys, say, that's all you got. Go back to the huddle and say, give me the ball again. Are you following what I'm saying? When the devil punches you in the mouth, you got to get up and say, that's all you got, and you got to go back to God and say, give me the ball again. You can't be whining and complaining. I don't have enough to pay my bill. My boyfriend left me. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear all that. I'm doing a series at church called Thanksgiving about gratitude. And Psalm 100 says, come into the courts with praise. So when God says, when you come into my presence, I don't want to hear that. You either praise me or don't come in. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So a guy goes to the huddle and says, I want the ball again. When the devil punches you in the mouth, basketball, you just touch a guy like that, he wants 2 free shots. I'm just saying. So 10 years ago, my 2 brothers and 2 sisters and my 2 parents who are now passed away, we were all together. We had not been together in a long time because of we all moved all around the world. And we're standing in a circle getting ready to pray for dinner, Christmas, Thanksgiving, one of those holidays, and my mom starts crying. And in her crying, she says, this is all I ever wanted, was us to be together. When God looks at the earth and he sees the United Nations, he goes, why can't they get along? I made them different because I'm creative and I do stuff like that. I gave them different cultures so they can see how to do the same thing different ways. Man, I wrote this book called Third Option. We'll get to this in a minute, but there's a chapter in there on culture. Culture is simply people doing the same thing in a different way. If you go to a different country, they're going to give you food just like you have food. You're going to see them get married a different way than you get married. They're going to raise their kids different than you. I was writing here. There's a lady in my church. She's from China. I said, Helen. She calls me Pastor Mai. She can't say Miles. She says Pastor Mai. I said, Helen, let me tell you something. I'm doing this book on racism. Can you help me out? You know, people think Asians are smarter because they get better grades. What's the secret? What's the real deal? She said, we study. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. And the reason, this is true, it's really in there, and the reason that it impacted me because I did not study. No, it's real. What was important to me when I was growing up was playing sports. And the point is that God gives us all different strengths. Why can't we learn from each other? In every race conversation, it's about us first them. Everyone say us, say them. Those are your 2 options. If you watch the news, matter of fact, there's an election. You're either a Democrat or Republican. Those are your 2 options. And if you're on one option, you have to be against the other option. And in race, if you watch television, you're either on Fox or CNN. You got to choose. What side are you on? Say us, say them. However, there is a third option. And it's what we honor, what we have in common, which is the image of God. Every single one of us is made in the same image of God with the same glory of God on our life. Every single one of you are 99.9% genetically identical. Not black people, white people, brown people, and all y'all mixed people like me. We're mixed people like me. Everybody. Me and a white guy, 99.5% genetically identical. I was in the prison ministering one day, and this white supremacist was walking around the yard where I had just preached, and there was all these guys in the yard, and God said, call him over. So I called him over. I couldn't go past this yellow line on the ground, so I called him over, and he got right here in front of all the dudes in the yard. And he's like, what's up? And he didn't have a shirt on, and he was walking around the yard with his boys like, white is right, black get black, brown stay down. That's what he was saying. And so I'm standing there, and he got right here. And he said, what's up? And I said, hey, man, Jesus is looking for you. And he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, I don't know. He just wants you. I said, he can use you. You're a leader. Blah, blah, blah. And we had this little very 30-second conversation. What was ironic is that he had so much ink on him that he painted himself black. I'm like, brother, aren't you defeating the purpose? You're supposed to be a white supremacist. I'm confused. You got me going this way and that way. We were looking in a genetic mirror. Yet someone told him to hate me because I look different. God said, y'all are just the same. I just put a different package on you. We are more similar than different. So I want to talk about how we got separated, but more importantly, how we can come together. Now, there's going to be a bunch of words on the screen. Please take pictures. You're not going to be able to write all this stuff down because there's going to be some lists. Take pictures of these notes, and you can use some of this stuff before you even leave this room. Are y'all following what I'm saying? Now, there's three kinds of racism. There's institutional racism, which is our institutions and systems that hold people down. If you just watch the news, they'll tell you about voting fraud and all that kind of stuff. My sister, when she was going to buy a house in Maryland, she was told that they had to find an appropriate neighborhood for her. And, of course, that was a neighborhood that wasn't white. Anyway, she moved into the white neighborhood that she wanted to move in, and because her husband, my brother-in-law, is a cop, he pulled up in his cop car with 9 other cop cars and moved their furniture in the house. They had no problems. So that's institutional racism. Then there's internalized racism. Internalized racism is when you are told you are inferior so much you begin to believe it. And you begin to call people like you the names that your racists call you. And you begin to decide what you cannot do based on what you have been told. That's internalized racism. Personally mediated racism is what we all think about. I don't like you because you're different. Amen? So 3 kinds of racism. Before I go any further, here is the biggest aha I'm writing this book that is so important to understand. If you ask people if they're racist, most people will say no. Some will say yes. Those are your 2 options. Third option is this. You are biased. You can be racially offensive and not be a racist. Right. Think. And here's why it's so important to understand that, because I've had thousands in my lifetime, thousands of conversations with people since I was a little kid, because I grew up, my grandmother, I have 2 black grandfathers, a white grandmother and a half Chinese grandmother, so I got this nice cocoa brown, Latin brown, you know what I'm saying? Green eyes, straight hair, you know what I'm saying? You don't know what that brother is. I grew up, and so I went to school in a white neighborhood, and I wasn't white, so I got harassed there. Grew up in a black neighborhood, I wasn't black enough, so I got harassed there. My white grandmother, when she grew up in Jamaica, well, she moved to Jamaica as a little kid, grew up, and her parents sent her to Jamaica, Queens, from Jamaica, West Indies. So they sent her to Jamaica, Queens, so she wouldn't marry a black Jamaican. Guess what she met in Jamaica, Queens? A black Jamaican. He couldn't go in the front door of their house. So when she married him, they disowned her, and even though they lived 15 minutes from my house growing up, we never knew them. We never heard of them to this day, ever. It was just all these brown people and Grandma Dottie. That was my family. So that's my background has experienced this from both sides, negative and positive. But you could be racially offensive and not be a racist. Here's why it's important. People who say they are not racist, if they think because they are not racist, they will never be racially offensive, they will never accept that they have offended anybody because they're not racist. I want you to think about this, because I've had this conversation, and I was like, you said this. No, that is not offensive to say. And what they don't say is because I'm not a racist, therefore there's nothing I could do that could be racially offensive because I'm not a racist. You have to separate those two things. You can be racially offensive out of ignorance, out of fear, out of uncomfortableness, out of awkwardness. And so give yourself permission for the next half hour to be biased. Biased means you have a lack of a neutral view of something. None of us have a neutral view. We're all biased because of what you grew up, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, Joshua chapter 5. Turn to Joshua chapter 5. Joshua chapter 5. Joshua is leading the Israelites into the promised land. And as he's leading the Israelites into the promised land, he is going there to fight the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Jebusite, the Uptite, and Adasite. And he's leading the Israelites into the promised land. And he's going to be confronted by the commander of the Lord's army, big, strong brother with his sword out like this. And he's going to say something to the commander of the Lord's army. Look what it says. It came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man stood opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua said to him, are you for us or our adversaries? Do you watch Fox or CNN? That's what he asked him. Are you for us? Everyone say us. Are you for them? That's what he asked him. And he said, no. That's not an answer. You're either for us or you're for them because we're getting ready to fight and we're getting ready to go and inherit the land that God promised our forefathers. So you are either for us or against us. And the commander of the Lord's army says, no, there's a third option. I am the side. You obey me. You bow down to me. I'm not here to support you, Joshua. Do you know that God is not here to support you? You are here to support him. He says, look, as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Joshua fell on his face to the earth and he worshiped. The third option is that we honor and we acknowledge the priceless value of the image of God in every single one of you, because the image of God in you is not inferior or superior to the image of God in me. And by the way, every single person you ever see in your life, even if they don't know what gender they are. Oh, Benny, get him off the stage. Get him off the stage. Every time my wife and I see a homeless person, we pause. We see a human being eating out of garbage. We pause and we say, that was someone's baby one day. And that baby was made in the image of God. Every human being. I'm not making a moral assessment of anybody's morality. It's what God made. There are humans walking here who are very confused, but God made them in his image. They have the ability to have a relationship with God. We have the responsibility to acknowledge that ability and potential and to invest in that. That's what this is about. So he says, you fall down and worship me. He said, no, as commander of the Lord's army, I have now come. Joshua fell on his face and worshiped. He says, what does my Lord, his servant, say? He says, you do what I say, everything will be fine. Someone was arguing with me, his pastor was arguing with me about this verse. He says, you're saying that the commander of the Lord's army was not on Joshua's side? Nope. Every time Israel didn't obey, guess what God did? Stomped them like a roach. He said, this is about me. We serve God. He does not serve us. We obey God. We say, God, how do you when someone says, you feel froggy, jump? Okay, jump. Simon says jump, and when God says jump, and you ask permission to come down. Y'all get that later when you're laying in bed. How does that make sense? Anyway. How do we get divided? Sociologists call it grouping, in-group, out-group. How we determine people who are like us or not like me. Take a picture of that. The way we sort people into groups are either like me or not like me. And everybody you meet is somehow either like you in some way or not like you. For example, all of y'all in here are part of multiple groups. If you are a lady, say, hey. That's a group. I'm not part of that group. I would love to be part of that group, but I'm not part of that group. If you're married, say, hey. Very good. If you're a mother, say, hey. Now, if you notice, that was kind of like a hey. Because mothers are tired. Okay, that's a different group. So those are all different groups. Even though those are all females, there were even groups within the female set. Same thing with guys, same thing with mechanics, same thing with pastors. If you're a pastor, all the pastors say, what's up? Not that all the pastors are guys, but all the pastors. And then there's senior pastors, then there's associate pastors, then there's music pastors. All those are groups. Are you following what I'm saying? Once you identify a group that you are in, and all of y'all are in multiple groups, this is a group. Your color is a group. Your ethnicity is a group. Your socioeconomic level is a group. The combination of your socioeconomic level and your culture and your color is a group. That's all those are groups. Once you define your group, one of the characteristics of your group is that you understand the group. You understand how they talk, how they think. You understand their burdens. You understand the pain they go through. I was in Hawaii, and I was on vacation, and this guy was in the gym working out. And I could tell he was an athlete, not someone who worked out. Because all y'all who work out, you're not necessarily an athlete. You're just someone who works out. But this guy, I could tell, and I could tell he didn't play football because he didn't have football legs. That's a whole nother story. And he didn't. He works out. He's an athlete, but he's not a football player because those aren't football legs. So I went up to him and said, brother, what do you do and what sport do you play? He said, I play in the NHL. Now, we were out in group, athletes. In group, pro athletes. Out group, hockey, football. I know nothing about hockey. I just know they do it on ice, and there's like 5 brothers who play it. That's it. That's what I know. But they're coming up. We're coming up. We're getting more. We're getting more. But so what happens is, because I understood my group and he understood his group, we spent all our vacation trading information. Tell me about your schedule. Tell me about your workouts. Tell me about how you guys get hurt and how you do rehab and your training camp. And I'll tell you, and he wanted to know about mine. Because you know your in-group. So once you identify your in-group, you understand your in-group. But those who are not in your group are your out-group. Are y'all following me? So everybody say in-group. Say out-group. Very good. Okay, so once you identify your in-group, you express in-group bias. That means you give preferential treatment to the people in your group. Everybody in your group. You do it just because you're human. Doesn't make you a racist. Necessarily, you could be. Okay? I'm going to give you a list. I'm going to give you 9 characteristics of in-group bias. Number 1, I am more comfortable with those who are like me. I am more inclined to spend time socially with those who are like me. I am more patient with those who are like me. I give the benefit of the doubt quicker to those who are like me. I express more grace when mistakes are made by those like me. It is easier to communicate with those like me. I assume that I will get along easier with those who are like me. I am more willing to go out of my way to help those who are like me. And I possess more positive assumptions about those who are like me. All of us do that every single day. You walk in a room, you see people in your group, and you go, hey, you assume all these things. You're going to give them grace for whatever football team y'all like. Y'all get ready to get the Raiders. But they're not yours yet. They may come to San Diego for a year, which I don't get that, but I heard that. Once you become a Raider fan, all you got to do is see a Raider anything on somebody else, and guess what? All of that. Hey, what's up, Raider? You start acting all crazy because Raider fans are insane, okay? In-group bias. Everyone say in-group bias? The opposite is out-group discrimination. Now, if you've never experienced racism, this is what it is. I am less comfortable with those who are not like me. I am less inclined to spend time socially with those who are not like me. I am less patient with those who are not like me. I give the benefit of the doubt less to those who are not like me. I express less grace when mistakes are made by those not like me. It is more difficult to communicate with those not like me. I don't assume I will get along easy with those who are not like me. I am less willing to go out of my way to help those not like me. And I possess, listen to this one, less positive assumptions. Listen to the news. Now remember, if it's your out group, you don't know them. You only know your in group. So what you hear is anecdotes about your out group a lot of times from people who don't know them either. So that's where stereotypes come from. You know what I'm saying? And so when you hear something from the news or from your family, from your neighborhood about people that they don't know because they're not in the in group either. And that's your fact. You talk about not judging people and taking the plank out of your own eye because you got a tree, you got Yosemite growing on your face, and you're looking at a little speck in someone's eye. 6 things you can do. Number 1, acknowledge 6 things you can do. Number 1, acknowledge that you have blind spots. A blind spot is being unaware to your blindness. Everybody has a social narrative. A social narrative is the story that shapes how you see the world. It's what your parents told you. If you combine what your parents told you, what your neighborhood told you, what your school told you, what your friends told you about everybody else, all that information gave you a prescription for the glasses through which you see the world. So everybody has a social narrative. However, there are 7 billion people everyone has a different social narrative. My two brothers, we slept in the same room, and at the night of the first Exorcist movie with Linda Blair, who some of y'all youngers don't know about, her head went 360 in the movie. We slept in the same bed that night. No lie, back to back. Benny, you remember that? And homegirls went, and her head went all the way around. I was like, oh, snap, I'll be getting out of here. I ain't never seen that before in the movie. So my brother and I slept back to back all night. I said, you watch that way, I'll look this way. But she ain't getting us. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, Mark. He's like, what? I went, ah. My brother and I slept in the same bed. Guess what? We have different glasses. He sees the world a little different than me. He's a believer. He did drugs, I did drugs. We have a lot in common, but we still see the world different. Your social narrative will only give you 1/7 of the perspective. You don't know my life. You don't know those people's life. And when someone who doesn't know their life is telling you about their life, watch out. Watch out. Stop right there. Just stop right there. What I mean by stop right there, stop right there before you start believing that to be true. Because there are things about, you have to accept the fact that you have blind spots. There are things about other people's life that you simply do not know. As a friend of mine who wrote an article called The Right Hand of Privilege. If you are right-handed, raise your hand. Doesn't matter which hand you raise up. Keep your hand up really high. Keep your hand up really high. Everyone look around the room. About 90% of y'all right-handed. If you're left-handed like me and you are super talented because you are left-handed, raise your hand. Come on now. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. We are overcomers. Give me the fist, baby. Give me the fist. There. That's right. Power to the people. Left-handers. If you are right-handed, culture was made for you. Go to high school. Go to school. The desk was on the right side. I didn't have a desk. That one on I was at. You can write and talk to the girl next to you because your elbow was braced on the table. And you go, hey, what's up, girl? How you doing? I'm just doing my test. After class, me and you in the back. Okay. If you, what? Y'all didn't say that? What kind of schools you go to? If you were left-handed, you had to be out here like this writing on the desk. Y'all remember that? If you were right-handed, you could go to any golf shop and get any club at every golf shop on demand. If you're left-handed, you got to go to Amazon. And when I was a kid, the only Amazon was in Brazil. There was no Amazon online. There ain't no online. If you want to get a baseball mitt, a catcher's mitt, and you want to get a right-handed catcher's mitt, you go to any sporting goods store. If you want to get a left-handed catcher's mitt, you got to go to 5 stores. And if you're on the baseball team and you're saying, why can't you get the mitt? We got to play. I can't find one. What's the problem? I got mine. Your right privilege. You don't know what you don't know. And the fact that you don't know it doesn't make you bad. But it also doesn't eliminate the burden. You have blind spots. Just take a step back. I was talking to a lady in a plane, and she says, well, I don't believe in white privilege. She said, I work hard. I said, I don't doubt you didn't. But would you ever think being white would ever prevent you from getting a loan? She said, why would I think that? Exactly. That's my point. But here's the key. It doesn't make anyone bad. Don't use it that way. But the disadvantage doesn't go away. We all have it. And by the way, in the chapter that I wrote in the book about privilege, it's called The Privilege of God, which basically means everybody has something somebody else doesn't have. And if you're used to having that something that someone else doesn't have, you do not know the burden that they have from not having it. All of us. And if you got it from God, it's not yours anyway. So you have to, if we could all open up our eyes and say, what do I have that God has given me that maybe someone else doesn't have, that I can help them with it? That's our responsibility. Number two, rename those people as your brother and sister and your neighbor. No more those people. The greatest commandment is to love God with your heart, mind, and soul. We all know the commandment, Matthew 22:37-40. Love God with your heart, mind, and soul. And the second is just like it, which means it's just as important. And by the way, if you ever heard all sins are the same, all sins are not the same. There are some sins, sexual sins are worse than other sins, and some commandments are better and more important than others. This is the number one. Love God, and then just like it is love your neighbor as yourself. Everybody say neighbor. Say neighbor. That means you and I are biblically bound by God to love your neighbor just like you love yourself. Are you following what I'm saying? But what if you rename people something other than neighbor? So if someone says, I love God and hates my brother, he's a liar. For he who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen? Well, what if he's not my brother? What if I dehumanize him by giving him another name? What if I call him a white this, a black this, illegal this? Arab this, a terrorist this. As soon as you give people those names in your heart, you are giving yourself permission not to love them. And you are giving yourself permission to allow them to be dehumanized and mistreated because they're not on your level. Whoa, you got to put the name neighbor back on them. There was a kid in New York City. He was 16 years old. He got arrested. Black kid, young man, walking down the street. 16 years old. His name's Khalid Browder. He got arrested for being accused of stealing a backpack. He went to prison. He went to Rikers Island prison. There's 20,000 adults, one of the most violent prisons in the world. He went there for 1,000+ days. That's almost 3 years for stealing a backpack. Bail was $3,000. He didn't have the money. 1,000 days. Within solitary confinement, 700 days. That's almost 2 years. For getting accused of stealing a backpack. Never had a trial. Never had a trial. And the guy, and they said, won't you plea out? Just say you did it. He said, I didn't do it. And on principle, he stayed in there for over 1,000 days, and they never let him out because he couldn't pay $3,000. That's wrong. Can I get an amen? So he spent 1,000 days. Finally, the guy who accused him fled the country, and they said, okay, you're done, and they let him go. No trial. Never had a trial. Never had a trial in the United States of America for getting accused of stealing a backpack. After he got out of prison, he killed himself. Now, just as a kind of poll, raise your hand if you think that that is horribly wrong. Just raise your hand. Very good. Okay, put your hands down. That's why NFL players kneel. Now, listen, you either agree with them or you don't agree with them. The third option, and here's the third option. I'm not trying to get you to agree with them at all. The third option is just get informed. Because if you were driving down the street in Las Vegas and you saw Pastor Benny laying in the street, I would think the first thing you would say is, Pastor Benny, are you okay? Why are you laying in the street? Not, get up, I'm going to work, you're getting in my way. You're not supposed to be laying in the street. But why are you laying in the street? Now, I played in the NFL, so I know that those guys who make a lot of money can get cut tomorrow and make no money. So why would a guy, 20-something years old, risk his career? Just ask that question. That's all I'm saying. Now, and the reason I'm throwing these bombs and kind of make you a little comfortable because these are some political things that people let me go back. Once you decide you're in group, you also define who your out group is. And once you define who your out group is, in culture, if you are in-group, out-group person, and you are not ascribing to the third option, heavenly perspective, you no longer can ever agree with your out-group. You just shut them off. So for example, if you're Republican, for example, you can never agree with a Democrat, and vice versa. If you are for the police, which I am, my son's a cop, my dad was a cop, you can never go against a cop in your mind because culture will call you a sellout. So you have to understand, wait a minute, I'm not a citizen of this. I have opinions, I have feelings, but I got to stand on the word of God. I got to walk with Jesus and let the Holy Spirit guide and direct my decisions. Are you following what I'm saying? And so when it comes to these people who are walking 1,000 miles, and we've dehumanized them, our media has, yes, I don't think any of you know them, but why would someone walk with their kids 1,000 miles. You would not do that. Now, am I making a statement on our immigration laws? Nope, at all. I'm just making a statement on what we call people and how we view people and how we should think about people. Because if your filter is that these people are dehumanized, and once you dehumanize someone with a derogatory label, a dehumanizing label, you can no longer relate to them as a human being. They are now this. Even if you call your kid stupid, you now dehumanized your son. When Jesus was getting baptized, God said, "This is my son, and check out everybody, I love him. He's my beloved son. He ain't nothing less than that." So you have to rename people. Neighbor, this dude on the sideline is your neighbor. That white supremacist with a torch, that's my neighbor. Those people walking wherever they get to, and probably where most of them ain't going to get here anyway, they're your neighbor. Now, what does that mean you do? That's between you and God. Really, that's between you and God. I'm not making a political statement about what should be done, but let's start with humanizing. And when you go to your job, and when you go to walk in the mall, whatever you do, that everybody you see, that's my neighbor, that's my neighbor, that's my neighbor, that's my neighbor. And then, Holy Spirit, what do you want me to do? Number 3, give in-group love to your out-group. In other words, when you're in a room and you see a bunch of people and you are in your in-group, whether it be racial or occupational in-group, gender in-group, and you see somebody who is not part of your group, just think it could be we're all giving each other the benefit of the doubt and not that person. So, Jesus said, if you love your neighbor, anybody can do that. You don't get no credit for that. Go love your enemy. Not that this person's your enemy, but go outside of your group and come over here and say, how you doing? Are you following? So if you go to Starbucks and everyone looks like you except one person, say hi to that one person. Don't be like, because by the way, there's assumptions. I was talking about this, and this person who was white said to me, "You need to just get over it." And I said, you spend all your time in your in-group. I want you to go someplace where you're the only white person so you can be a member of the out-group. And they went, and I asked 6 people, and they went, and it was so fascinating, all the things that they assumed were being thought about them. Now, for all brown people in here, a lot of times we think people are racist when they're not. We be like, they should just, maybe not, maybe you're just tripping, okay? but it was so evident when he was like, well, they didn't want to talk to me, and they didn't want. I said, how did you know? Did you ask them? Now, we do the same thing, because it's in your head. But until you experience that, then you go, okay, now I need to go the extra mile to help make sure the love of Jesus is coming through me, and I'm not going over here with the people that are like me. Number four, are y'all following me? Number 4, acknowledge your brother and sister's color. I remember the first time someone said to me they didn't see my color. I thought they didn't see blue, red, yellow, and green. So I was like, that's jacked up. Like, you don't see, everything's like gray. And they said, no, we just don't see your color. Now I was really confused. I was like, well, how is it that if you don't see my color, how do you know I have a color that you shouldn't see? I was confused. People go to Hawaii and get a tan. And when you go to Hawaii and get a tan, you realize that really you're just light brown. God made everybody one color? Just different shades. Now, for real, when you go to Hawaii and the sun brings out what you really are. That's a whole nother story. But the Son of God, Jesus, who you are, okay, you get that? Okay, some of you are like, wow, what does that mean? Okay. But when you get a tan, you want to celebrate your tan that you got in Hawaii. But if someone gets a tan in the womb, they want to invalidate it. I don't want to see it. Ooh. Hey, Red Fox, Sanford and Son, y'all may be too young, old, young. Y'all know Sanford and Son? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, Sanford and Son got robbed. Fred G. Sanford got robbed. The cop came and said, was the perpetrator white or colored? And he said, yeah, he was colored white. If you go to the dictionary, white's a color. But in culture, it's white people and people of color. Those are your two options. Third option is that all y'all are colored. Think about it. I mean, even think about this. White people, when you get embarrassed, you turn red. When you get cold, you turn blue. And then when you're room temperature, you're white. You're red, white, and blue. And you talking about we're people of color. Okay. That's a whole rainbow right there. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Let me keep going. Number 5, have a race. Every conversation you have with somebody is a race conversation. Why? Because you see color. You hear accent. You see swag. You see lack of swag. You see hair texture. You see eye color. You are having a race conversation. Every time you meet somebody, your brain is automatically, before you could even think, is assessing what that person is and how you should trust or not trust them. You are having a race conversation. You can't avoid it. And it's not bad. You are just noticing the creativity of God. Just deal with it now. However, even though you have all these assumptions from your social narrative, from when you grew up, that you're opposing on that person, suspend them and let them self-disclose and have a race consultation. In other words, disclose to me who you are. I want to know about your intelligence, your pain, your story, your family. Let me know. If you go to the airport and someone says, "Hey, I want you to take your bags. How are you? How are you, Mr. McPherson?" And when I talk to everybody because I'm that way. And I said, "Where you from, my brother?" "I'm from Ethiopia." I said, "How many languages do you speak?" "Oh, I speak 7 languages. I'm working on 3 more. And I'm not lying. I'm not lying. And you will call him dumb? Because he's got an accent? Let people self-disclose. Tell me about your family. Tell me how long you've been in this country. "Oh, I have 7 jobs. We came over here on nothing. I don't understand this country." Let people reveal it to you. God don't make junk. People are made in the image of God. They are fascinating. And let them reveal stuff to you. Last one. Give your heart to those who are not like you. Rod Carew was a black Panamanian. I say black because he was brown brother, but he was from Panama, and he was a 18-time All-Star in Major League Baseball. He's 74 years old right now. 328 batting average, 18-year All-Star, 18-time All-Star, MVP, Rookie of the Year. And he had a heart condition when he was 71 and a kidney condition. He needed a heart and a kidney. Conrad Rulin was 27 years old, NFL, white guy. He went into a coma. His mother went into the hospital, was praying for him. Obviously, you're going to live. I'm going to hear you heart again. She had a head on his chest. He died. Conrad died. He signed his organs over to be donated, and Rod Carew got his heart and kidney. When Conrad was 11, he met Rod Carew. Came home and said, "Mom, I met my hero. I'm going to be a pro athlete. I met Rod Carew, my hero." Rod Carew now has his heart and his kidney in his body. A white guy gave his heart and kidney to a black Panamanian. So his mother calls him and says, "Mr. Carew, you have my son's heart and kidney." He says, "Would you like to come listen to your son's heart?" She goes over his house. She listens to his heart. If we are so different, I don't need to say it. If some people are so inferior or insuperior, what all that garbage that we hear, how is it that white guy can put his heart and kidney into that black guy, Panamanian guy, and he lived? To this day, they're still friends. To this day. You can go and watch on 30 for 30 on TV. They're just friends. We all need a different heart because none of us in here. I mean, I learned so much. By the way, I'll be signing this out in the lobby after it come get a book. I learned so much about me writing this. God says, you don't understand the love that I want you to have for people and how you are missing out on the amazing, creative masterpiece of a human being.